You want to start the old interview there?
Absolutely. Doug, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. So tonight, everybody, we've got Mr. Doug Sweet with us, and to promo how we're interviewing him tonight, we shared a NBC article, and in the article, they did the usual propaganda, the usual character assassinations, things like that. And it's unfortunate that we have to divert from the interview to address this, but be it that NBC was irresponsible enough to put this out. They painted you as a racist with a broken family when the story was supposed to be about January 6th. And so first, are you a racist man?
Never, ever.
Okay. I hate to do that, man. But it's the time we're living in, and when NBC runs the article like that and runs the story like that, it's just worth it to go into that. So, listen, man, let me break away for a second, guys. I appreciate you here at the Freeman Report sharing the platform with me and us tonight, and being gracious, sharing the space here. Appreciate everybody that's shown up to watch. Everybody in the chat, we appreciate you guys here at the Freeman Report. And even though I'm not a common face here, I'm always lurking behind the scenes and watching and paying attention. And schedule permitting, I'll be back more regularly in the future. But Mr. Doug Sweet was there January 6th, and he went into the building. And by 8 o'clock that night, he was arrested. So what I want to do is I want to go back and rewind to some of your motives as to why it is that you even went there January 6th. What was your interest in being there?
Number one, I'm a Trump supporter. I guess of the finest kind. I'll follow him anywhere. He's a good man. He led our country for 4 years into a very good place. I saw the election in 2020. I saw it was stolen. And, when he put out, he sent me a text. He said, asked me to be there on January 6th. And I got up a group of people, and we all traveled there, and we went. Come to find out, a lot of people from my county went. I seemed to be the only one around that went in.
Okay. All right. So this was, very simply how, 1,000 other people that have been arrested and indicted and convicted have said that, just like you said, the president said, hey, if you're a supporter of mine, be here January 6th. And so you went, and obviously and I'm not trying to lead you, but I just kind of want to cut through the chase of some of the BS that people deal with. You were not going there to be a terrorist. You were not going there to be an insurrectionist. You were not going there to be a criminal of any kind. Is that correct?
That's correct. I just went there to, as a body, and just to show my support. That's all. And I went to the rally, and it was a fun time actually in the rally.
Yeah, it was. That was a good time. So okay, you're there. It's the 6th. It's very cold, and there's a huge crowd. Basically from the Capitol building to where he was having his speech at the Ellipse. And were you at the Ellipse? Did you listen to any of the speech?
I listened to the whole speech, and I noticed, of course, I didn't know when it was going to end, but I noticed at one point there was a large group of people that were filtering toward the Capitol from the Ellipse. And I actually took a picture of it, and my mind was like, why are y'all leaving early? The man's still talking. So it was probably I'd say 30 minutes before the end when these people were leaving. So they were, 30 minutes ahead of the rest of the crowd that went to the Capitol.
And I can tell you why. I was in that crowd that you were taking pictures of, and the audio was not set up for any of us to be able to. We couldn't hear a word the man was saying. We couldn't hear a word. And we stood there for a while, trying to catch what words we could. And we could hear the crowd in front of us kind of cheering. And, when we realized, we're not going to hear anything, we all just started to head back. We were actually heading back towards our hotel, but it was in that direction.
Right.
And then we went to the Capitol because we saw the crowd there. Now, so you saw the whole speech, and then did you go from there to the Capitol?
Yes.
Okay. And then what did you see? What was your experience as you were walking up? What was the state of the Capitol? Was there fencing around it? Were there gate racks or bike racks around it? Anything, what was your experience?
My experience was when we first got in front of the Capitol, my first experience was I was standing in awe at the amount of people that had gathered in front. And we were standing on Capitol Hill, so you actually look back, and I took a couple pictures of, like, say, Maryland and Constitution Avenue, and it was nothing but a sea of people. I've never seen that many people in one place. And looking at the Capitol, there was no barricades, there was no signage, everything. From what I say now, because I know better, it was all removed. And I mean, I had no idea that I wasn't supposed to be in the Capitol. My first impression was I wasn't going to go in the Capitol. I was just going to stay outside. But, I saw, I call them ninjas. They were like,
Tell us how that led you going into the Capitol. You're outside, you're on the grounds, there are no gates, there are no fences, and then what led you inside the building?
Well, about, I'd say 60 yards away from me, police or somebody shot a concussion grenade, and it evidently blew up right on a man's chest, and it caused him to go into, he had a heart attack. And they were calling for medics, and I'm not a medic, so I was trying to facilitate the medics to get to him by opening up the crowd. And then you look back at the Capitol, and there's police officers waving us in, and I just felt like, and of course in the same vision you got officers waving you in, at the same time you see these little black people, they're dressed in black, and they had, black whatever ski masks on, and they're fighting with police. And I'm thinking, hey man, that's Antifa. That's my call to get up in there. And going through the crowd was an act in itself, to get from point A to point B, which was a doorway to the atrium. It was just amazing how I got there through that crowd. But like I said, I got a photographic memory of that day, and I was going up to help the police because I see they were getting their butts handed to them by these little black ninjas that were, pretty much whipping their butts. And
you said they were dressed head to toe, completely covered in black clothes?
Yes. And they were carrying like big bear spray canisters of the pepper spray, and they were spraying the police.
Okay.
So, I was like, hey, this is Antifa. I know who this is. So on the way up there, I started praying. I'm a devout Christian. I love Jesus Christ, and that's just who I am. And I started praying, and I heard God's voice tell me, as I've heard him speak 1,000 times to me, I hear him tell me to go inside, go inside. And I'm like, okay. So there was a girl that was with me, and I told her, I said, we're going in. We're probably going to get in trouble. I said, but we're not going to cause any trouble. you should stay back. Oh, no, I'm going with you. If you go, I'm going. I said, well, suit yourself. So we continued and cut through that crowd like a knife. It was almost like I had a divine appointment to get inside of that building quickly. And we actually did. We even had like a moment to take a couple pictures on the outside. We were waiting in a line that moved pretty quickly to get into the Capitol, and like I said, in the atrium. And when we got in, the people were like tearing stuff up. They're throwing chairs and kicking trash cans, and I was like, y'all are acting like Antifa. I screamed that out loud, and it was like you cut the lights on in a cheap motel, and I mean, those little roaches were flying everywhere, and I was like, where in the world did all these people go so fast? And so it was about 7 of us left, and we proceeded to go down a set of steps. And then, within 15 minutes, we had turned ourselves into the police. We didn't cause any trouble. Of course, in my court case, they had film of us from when we went in all the way to where we turned ourselves in at. So, they scoured that to see what we did. And, one of the FBI agents said we were model tourists. So, when we turned ourselves in, that's how I got arrested.
So at this point, you're in the building and you, find out that they're going to arrest people. You decide to turn yourself in, and you're in a very small group of people. You're the first people to be arrested and detained. And you had said they walked you through a tunnel and you saw something there. Tell us about that.
Well, that's end of the story pretty much. We were inside the Capitol for 5.5 hours. And then, upon taking us out to formally arrest us at the Capitol Police Precinct, they took us down some really skinny alleyways that are inside of the Capitol. We came to a elevator which brought us down, and then we exited into a tunnel. And it was the congressional tunnel. There's a tramway, like 2 little train-like things with no roofs on them, and they had cars behind them, and they would haul the House and Senate back and forth to, I guess, Capitol meetings. And I noticed immediately, of course, everywhere I go, I'm always looking for cameras. And there was a lot of cameras that were in the tunnel. But I also noticed on the floor, immediately after exiting the elevator, that there was a long pile of clothing. On exiting the tunnel, it would be on the right-hand side. And there was a lot of black clothing, black leather gloves, plastic gloves. I guess they call them ski masks, toboggans, whatever you want to call them. There was just all manners of black clothing laying in a long, continuous pile all the way. Now, this is 5 blocks underground, this tunnel is, and there was clothing the whole way. And I would assume there was enough clothing in there to fill one of those, like home renovation dumpsters.
Yeah.
That's how much clothing was in there.
And it was all so you're saying it was the same black clothing that you saw on the guys that they were wearing that were attacking the police outside. It looked like that clothing.
Yes. In fact, it was, I've dealt with Antifa since probably, I want to say 2015, 2016, somewhere in that ballpark. And I know their logos and their insignias, and with the 3 red arrows pointing down at a 45-degree angle, I saw multiples of those in that long pile. I also saw Black Lives Matter clothing, BLM, and written out in bold letters, Black Lives Matter, on hoodies and sweatshirts and that sort of thing. So I know whose clothes they were. It's just, in my mind, how did they get there? Why were they there?
In the congressional tunnel.
Yes, and I'm thinking, they held us inside the Capitol for 5.5 hours. Why? My question to my officer that was with me, he said, I asked him, I said, what in the world? Why are we been paraded around here for so long? I said, I need to get these handcuffs off. It was tearing my shoulders up terribly. So he said, well, there's no safe way to escape. But that tunnel was always there all day long. Why didn't they take us up that tunnel? And he couldn't give me an answer. Why didn't we go out here at 3 o'clock? Why at 8 o'clock or 7:30 are we going to go out this tunnel? And the only thing I can come up with is someone else was using that tunnel all day long, and they had to wait for them to get out of it before we could use it.
Maybe it was the people that dropped off all of those clothes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Man.
So in my mind, I'm thinking that Antifa and Black Lives Matter ruled that tunnel all day long. And like I said, it comes out 5 blocks away from the Capitol. That's a great way for them to get in and out of the Capitol at will with no one seeing them.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of this happens. You see all of these clothes. You get down there. You get booked. Now you've already gone to court. You've already been sentenced, and you are currently on probation. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you've already had to deal with all of that, and God bless you for having to deal with that. Appreciate you so much for coming on here and telling this. And I'm going to hand you over to the other guys. I'm sure they've got questions, and I'm sure the folks in the chat room are also going to have questions. I'm just so appreciative, and I'm very grateful that you would talk to us. I know that you will not talk to the mainstream media, and as far as I'm concerned, you have an incredible American story to tell concerning what is now a pretty historic day. So I just appreciate your time, and I appreciate your patriotism, and I appreciate you being here. And I'm gonna hand you over to Thomas here. Tom, you want to take it over from here?
Sure. So who wants to go? Kang, I'm still working on some questions here. Kang or Dean, which one of you guys wanted to go first?
I'll go.
All right, Kang, if you wanna ask some questions that you had.
Yeah, so partner, you said that you'd seen Antifa fighting with cops was it at the Trump rally? They were fighting with cops, or was it after they left?
No, not at the Trump rally. This was in front of the Capitol, like immediately in front of the Capitol, up the steps, and on the Capitol grounds proper. Like you're going up the steps.
Yeah, I got you.
That area. Of course, there was scaffolding set up for the inauguration, and there was cops up on the scaffold, and they were waving us in. So
now, did the fighting start as soon as they arrived at the Capitol?
It was like a melee going on when we already got. As soon as we got there, you could see there was pepper spray, there was concussion bombs going off, there was fights going on, police fighting these, like, I'm gonna call them ninjas, because that's what they look like. They're dressed completely in black. They were tangled, and it looked like these guys, they were actually overpowering the police at one point.
Yeah, because a bunch of soy ninjas jumping on
soy boys.
Yeah, they're soy ninjas, and that's how they do it. They 15 of them grab you and pull you into a crowd of 30, and they stomp you. They know if they go 1-to-1 to you, they're going to get their faces smashed in, because most of their bones are hollow and full of soy. So, how long do you stayed for the whole Trump rally and listened to every word, right?
Yes.
And then after that, he left, and then you went over with the crowd. So it's safe to say that you were a little bit late to the party, to the riot that was happening, that was already started by the soy boy ninjas that you had seen.
Yes, it was. And knowing what I know now, it was all a setup. Yep. By the time that Trump's speech ended, all the signage was down. All that, what they were calling bike racks is I guess what it was. It looked like little cattle fences, but all that was non-existent when I got there. So we were unimpeded going straight to the Capitol, and like I said, we had no idea. And I'm speaking for, hundreds of thousands and possibly a million or so people had no idea that you weren't allowed in.
Right. And you also see the video of them waving people in, moving barricades for people. And then they gave Jacob Chansley, the QAnon shaman. Think what you want about Q, but let's talk about him specifically. They gave him a guided tour. We watched the video. Tucker Carlson single-handedly got that guy out of jail, and his lawyers couldn't even do the damn thing. That footage that was released showing him actually being led around inside the Capitol by two police officers. They didn't have him zip tied. They didn't tackle him. They didn't try to stop him. Matter of fact, they were using their pass keys to actually open up doors that they knew he couldn't get into, and some doors were barred to them. They eventually escorted him into the inner chamber where he said a prayer for them and others, and then they calmly walked out. That's what he did. And they wanted to give him, they had him already in prison for over a year, and they want to give him in prison for like 4 more. Now, for you, how much time did they threaten you for taking a tour?
They never threatened me with prison time. I guess maybe the prosecutor. I was involved in a phone call with my lawyer, the prosecutor, and 3 new FBI agents that I had not met before, and they were trying to take jail off the table. And in the end of the conversation, the prosecutor said, I'm not taking it off the table. Mm-hmm. So that's when I went to court, I knew full well that I could be doing jail time.
Of course. Gotcha. So you went down the same tunnels that Nancy Pelosi and everyone else went down. And you say you saw, after being held in the Capitol, essentially, you walked in and then immediately walked out, and then you then got arrested, and then they held you in the Capitol. They took you downstairs into the tunnels where they escaped. And they're the same ones that Senate and congressmen were actually, oh my God, they're coming for you, when they took all the selfies of themselves under the tables initially. And then they went down there with Nancy Pelosi's daughter, who just happened to have a camera crew recording it like a documentary, because that's what she does for a living. No, nothing suspicious about that. And also all those professional photographers that were also taking photographs from up. They would get on these balcony areas, the upper walkways, which were restricted. And somehow they were up there taking these professional telescoped, with the actual vest that said press on them, while the people were insurrecting like ISIS. Like you guys were walking around with rocket launchers and shooting at each other, and they're just up there calmly, snap, snap, snap. And I'm like, this is bizarre. All of it smelled like a setup from the beginning. Then, of course, you were brought into the same tunnels, you said, and they held you down in that area for 5 hours?
No, they held us inside the Capitol. We kind of did laps around the inside of the Capitol for 5.5 hours, and under the guise of they were looking for a safe way to remove us from the Capitol. And I think they were just parading us around for photographers.
Correct. Because the photographers are around you. So you guys get down into the tunnels after 5 hours, and you're like, dude, my arms are hurting. My shoulders are killing me. Why you got me cuffed? I'm clearly not a danger. We're going to book me fine. We'll have to get me out of here. They take you down. How long did they keep you upstairs before you went downstairs?
We were, like I said, when we started leaving the rotunda, we were leaving to go outside. So we were inside the Capitol for 5.5 hours. And then abruptly, I would say that because there was no one outside, that they could take us out at that point, because it was 7:30 at night. Gotcha. Now the curfew came on at 6, and so it was an hour and a half after the curfew, they decided to take us out. So somebody was using those tunnels,
right? Of course,
all day long.
And how long after you entered the Capitol? How long after you entered the Capitol did you turn yourself over?
Oh, it couldn't have been more than 15 minutes.
So 15 minutes after you go in, you turn yourself in, and then they parade you around in handcuffs, and then to take you down to the tunnel, and you see this big pile of Antifa clothing. Let's just call it what it is, the soy ninja outfits.
Yep.
And it was one of those great big, Trash Girl. I know it's kind of a local company here. The one, the giant, like, we're tearing our house down, and here's all the stuff. There was that amount. That's insane.
There was that amount of clothing, because like I said, it was 18 inches to 2 feet tall and probably 3 feet wide, and it went 5 blocks long in a continuous fashion. It was just like thousands of people discarded black clothing in that tunnel.
Jeez. Huh.
Now, I did a part in a movie, Capital Punishment 2, and these guys had access to pretty much as much footage as they want. And they're having trouble finding footage inside that tunnel. And one of the guys involved asked me, did I think they may have painted or taped over the cameras? I was looking at the cameras. They looked unaltered. If anything, they may have erased all of that photography. So
yeah, they did that. They did it with the committee. Why would they not do it with the actual footage to cover up the crime? There's no way they're going to allow your story to have any kind of photographic evidence to back that up. Trust me. There's no way. You were absolutely amazing in your memory in this, and this is something we've never heard before. We've never heard this. You've heard this for the first time right here on the Freeman Report. That an actual first arrestee saw a tunnel that was being used. We know exists because the Senate and the Congress were reported as using the escape tunnels to get out. And now we know that they used it to also get rid of all their compatriots in black that came in and started breaking windows and fighting with cops. That's how those people escaped the Capitol. They would pretend to arrest them, take them down there, release them, tell them to change their clothes back into their street stuff, and then they were free to go. That's insanity that this happened. And I guess
there's a little more to this as well. While we were inside the Capitol, I was paying very close attention to police radio traffic, and I will tell you there was very little. But what was there, I was paying attention to, and this one guy on the outside, Capitol policeman, asked Lieutenant Bruno, who was in charge of all of us that were arrested on the inside, asked if he had any more space for 3 more police combatants. And the answer was yes. I've got 20 officers in here and I've only got 7 people. So yeah, bring them in. So they brought these guys in. I recognized one of them from the Richmond rally, the Antifa Richmond rallies, trying to tear down the monuments. And there was 2 others. They were dressed exactly the same, long stringy hair, little bony little kids with backpacks. But I know for a fact one of them was a VCU student at the time, and I knew they were Antifa. They had bruises and knots all over them. They had bloody knuckles from where they were fighting police, and they were sprayed with pepper spray and chemical spray, and they were escorted down the tunnel with us, loaded into a paddy wagon, and we arrived at the Capitol precinct, which is approximately 7 blocks away from the Capitol. And they were released uncharged, all 3 of them.
Did you see them disrobed from black in the tunnel, or are they allowed to wear their black outfits to the...
No, actually, they were wearing Trump-type shirts.
Yes.
American flag shirts, I think is what they were wearing.
Yep.
But they were wet. They had been washed off. Right. Somebody washed them off with a hose or something from the pepper spray.
Yep. So they got assistance from the cops. Like no one there going to be pouring water on them. Yeah, I saw a video of these kids wearing black, taking the black off, putting on Trump stuff, fighting with cops. I guarantee you, the black was coming out of their book bags. That's what they changed. They're empty.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And they carry all kinds of gadgets in their book bags.
Wow.
One of the things they carry in their book bags is like a long tube sock with a couple master locks in it, so that when you're confronting one, the one behind them can take that tube sock and sling it over and bust you in the forehead or the top of the head with it.
Right.
And you don't see who did it.
Yep. I remember the bike lock guy.
That's some of their candy ass stuff that they do.
Yeah, we had that bike lock video from that guy back in 2015 during the battles of Berkeley. He smacked a guy and got arrested. They used facial recognition software. The Spurgers on 4chan did. But hey, Dean, you got some questions, right? Thank you for talking to me, brother. I'm gonna pass you to Dean. Thank you, brother. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to talk to
All right, Dean's
Hey,
gonna
God
take
bless
it
you,
over.
man.
Dean, you got.
Hey, I'm just so glad to tell the story. Thank you for this venue to vent and tell the truth.
Absolutely, no, absolutely, man. We love having you, Dean. If you're having problems, I can
No,
go through my
just
question. You got it?
got it. I was clicking the enable microphone. It wasn't working. Well, whatever.
So
it's neither here nor there. We're here. But
do you want to go, or do you want me to go, or?
You can go ahead if you want to.
I got some questions I wanted to get really quick. So, all right, can you describe some of the insignias you saw when you were looking at that close?
Well, they were it's 3 arrows side by side pointing down at a 45-degree angle.
Yep, I've seen that one before. Was there any other ones or was that just the main one that you kind of saw?
That's the main Antifa insignia that I saw. I saw something that said 7 Hills on it. And I do know that there is the 7 Hills Antifa, and I'm not sure whether they're Richmond area or whether they're Raleigh-Durham area.
Okay, I can look that up too. I have quite a lot of experience with Antifa. Had you gone up against Antifa before January 6th? Had you had any experience with identifying them or their symbols at all?
Oh, extreme amount of, because like I said, I was since 2017. We had a very small organized group that were facing off with them over the tearing down of Confederate monuments on Monument Avenue. But we also we went to the Raleigh-Durham area, the Pittsboro, North Carolina area. Charleston, West Virginia. We made a lot of road trips in defense of Confederate monuments.
Okay, yeah, I do see. I have looked it up. I can share this for everybody, but there is a 7 Hills Antifa insignia. I'll put that in the chat real quick. So you did have experience with coming up against them. Were you the only one that was arrested in the Capitol that day? Like, who was there? Was it you and just the other combatants, or were there other patriots that had been arrested?
Well, upon going in, it was just a lady named Cindy Fitchett and I that we're from the same county. In fact, we grew up together. And it was just us two. And then we kind of gelled into a group. Once we started screaming at and I would call them Antifa that was on the inside tearing up, because they were bona fide slinging stuff around, trying to damage stuff. And a few of us, I know I did. I know this guy named Gallagher and Curzio. Curzio was from Florida, and I think Gallagher was from New Hampshire. They were screaming as well, telling them to stop. And so we gelled into like a group, and I think it was like 5 or 6 of us. So how I know that I was the first arrested was that night when I got to a hotel room when I was released. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. We cut on Fox News in the hotel room, and it said that there was 47 arrests today in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol riots. And 40 of those arrested were curfew violations, which that left 7 other people that were arrested. That included, that was our group.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, of all the people that we saw the cops dragging away, nobody got arrested but us. And that's what I'm left with. Yes, we had to be the first ones arrested. In fact, in the precinct, it was just us in there.
Well, I know when we were talking before, when we were scheduling this interview, you had said there was another woman that kind of had like a 100-yard stare. She looked like she had been through the ringer. Who was that again?
That was Victoria White. And I, when I saw her, I had made, of course, she was told she couldn't speak to anybody in custody. And so I looked at her from across a small hallway, and I kind of, motioned with facial expressions in my eyes. They're like, look, and she picked up on it.
Yeah.
I got your back. I can't do a whole hell of a lot, but I'll look after you, that kind of thing. So I got a chance to talk to her in August, and she had done a part in that movie, Capital Punishment 2, as well. And the director hooked us up over the phone in a conversation, and she remembered that, I was the one that kind of, looked at her, and she remembered me. And but she was added real late in the day. And like I said, she had the 1,000-yard stare, and it haunted me for 2.5 years. What actually happened to this woman? And in the making of this movie, they showed me the footage, exactly what happened. And I'm telling you, it was, I'm all man. I'll tell you this, but I'm gonna tell you, it made me break down, man. I couldn't believe what, and I've supported police all my life, and I can't believe what these officers did to this woman. They beat her for at least 3 minutes straight. Seemed like eternity what I was watching. And I don't even know how she survived it, but she did. And her name is Victoria White, and I would call her a super patriot. What a woman. What an incredible woman, an incredible story she has.
Yeah, do you know if there's video of that of her, what happened to her when she was attacked?
Oh yeah, I saw the video. I saw it's Capitol, it's CCTV footage.
Maybe King, if you got some time over there, if you could try to look that up real quick.
Laura Logan has done, I want to say, at least 2 mini docudrama series on her. They got her story in full. They had some of the footage, but Chris Burgard, the director of Capital Punishment 2, he had the full thing, and I'm telling you, it's more than a man can stand to watch what they did to that woman.
Yeah, no, I remember. I mean, from my experience with January 6th, they were doing a lot of terrible stuff, especially when it came to, and this is something that I didn't have it written down, but I do want to ask you: did you notice the police specifically targeting like women, the elderly, children, as if they're trying to rile up the crowd?
Yes, I think what they were doing is provoking more men to join in and get arrested.
Okay, yeah, because that was my experience, is that it seemed as if, because I actually helped an elderly lady who had been tear gassed, and that's why I wasn't even near, any of the entrances or anything. I was trying to get this lady out of there, because she was just an elderly lady. She had kind of like collapsed. She was tearing up. She was obviously having a hard time breathing. So we were trying to help her to just get out of there, because they were specifically targeting, from what I saw. And I don't know if Jeremy had this experience or any other people have had this experience if they were there. And again, I don't want anybody to incriminate themselves, but they were targeting the elderly, women, and children, with the intent to rile up the men and the other people in the crowd that, when you see that kind of thing as a patriot, as a person, as just a regular human being, when you see the weak targeted or women targeted or children, you want to get up and do something. And I think that was the goal. So after all this went down, and I don't know, maybe we covered this and I just missed it because I had stepped out for a second. Were the other guys that were Antifa, the ones that came in as police combatants, were they charged with anything?
No, they had their tie wrap, I guess you call them zip ties, they clip their zip ties upon, we all go to the precinct, we get unloaded from the paddy wagon at what they call a sally port. We're led inside to an area to sit down handcuffed. And these guys were led in. They might have stayed in the police precinct for, possibly 10 minutes at the very most. And then the watch captain came out, and he cut all their ties off of them and let them go free, gave them their backpacks, and they walked free, never got arrested or anything. And it just blew me away because they were labeled as police combatants. In other words, they were fighting the police. And here we are, we're a group of peaceful protesters, legal protesters. Now we're under arrest, and we didn't harm a soul. I was in Charlottesville, and I knew I was walking into a Charlottesville type, I want to call it a psyop. And I knew what I was getting into when I got in. And when the Lord told me to get inside, and I must add this too, when I was first detained and sat in the floor with handcuffs, I was like, oh Lord, you done got yourself into something now, Mr. Sweet. Yeah. And I heard again the Lord very, very clearly in an audible voice said, don't worry, Doug, only good's going to come from this. And the Lord is always right. I'm going to tell you this because I really haven't had, they've tried to screw with me a lot, but it hadn't fazed me a bit. Only good has come from this. Look, here I'm doing a podcast. This is a blessing to be able to tell the truth. Yeah. And it's a blessing to have a platform to do so on. And I thank you all so much for it.
Absolutely, man. So do you think God put you there to essentially bear witness to what happened?
Well, like you said, you've never heard this story of the tunnel before.
No.
I think I was brought there just for that. That's right there. I mean, I saw a lot of things inside, and I've been able to piece some stories together of things that I saw, and it's takes a while when you add more pieces to the puzzle and you figure some things out. But I think that what I saw in the tunnel was probably the most damning evidence that I came across that day.
Absolutely.
Of all the places they had to take us out of, they had to take us down that tunnel, and I just think I was meant to see that.
Absolutely. Okay, so they didn't have any lawyers, these guys, right? They didn't call their lawyer and then they came in and that's why they released them.
They do, because normally Antifa has lawyers that ride the bus with them,
Yeah, that's true.
And they're there to immediately release them. But there was no lawyers present. It was just 3 that were arrested, and they had bona fide charges. They should have had bona fide charges against them. You're fighting a policeman, Jack. That's some serious charges, and they were allowed to walk scot-free. And I have scoured the FBI arrest list because I know I'm on it. I know Cindy's on it. I know Gallagher and I know Curzio are on it. And I have yet to see the first Antifa face on their arrest list. So they arrested no Antifas.
Or yep. That makes sense. They arrested them and didn't even record that they were even apprehended. So when you finally got back to the police station and they were getting ready to let you go, what did they say they were going to charge you with?
Okay, they charged me with trespassing and protesting, which was a payable fine over the phone from home. I was told that upon my release that it would probably be a $50 fine and $100 court costs, but to hold off and wait 2 weeks before I called. Well, before 2 weeks went by, I was rearrested by the FBI, and that's a whole nother story.
So, and that's what I actually want to talk to you about that particular. So they released you pretty much telling you this is a slap on the wrist. This people have done this before. Like you just go on the phone, it'll be paid and it's done. So what happened? Because I know you're close with your sheriff there. What happened with that? You got a phone call before because it seems like they were planning to raid you like they did a lot of the other people, shock and awe campaign.
Oh yeah, well, I'm real close with the sheriff. Him and I went to school together. He has stepped down and resigned. Well, not resigned. He retired. We have a new sheriff now, but it's a small town, and we all know each other, have good respect for each other. And Mark Barrick is his name. He gave me a phone call at about approximately 5:30 in the morning. I was up drinking coffee, and this was on the 13th of January. And he said, "How you doing, Doug?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing fine, Mark. What's up?" He said, "I don't know, just checking on you." And I said, "Am I going to be arrested today by the FBI?" And he said, "How'd you know?" And I said, "I don't know. You don't call me at 5:30 every morning, Mark." So I got
You got to feel it. No, I definitely understand that. So because you said that the sheriff had said they wanted to do certain things, the FBI, and that he wouldn't let them do them. What did the FBI actually want to do when they
the FBI had a helicopter from Elizabeth City, North Carolina, Coast Guard helicopter. Okay. They were going to come in and hover over top of my house with the spotlights on and maybe the speakers going, I don't know. They were going to have a Coast Guard boat come up the creek from the Chesapeake Bay and come up adjacent to my property with the blue lights flashing, spotlights. And then they were going to have a team of FBI agents in their little black SUVs come attack my house and blow my doors in and arrest me at 1 o'clock in the morning. And Mark Barrick said, absolutely not. He said, "You're going to go back home and you'll come back in the morning. I'll have him. He'll turn himself in at 7 o'clock. So I'll have him here at 7 in the morning. You can come pick him up that way." And they gave some protests, but a constitutional sheriff, and he has the power to stop them. And thank the Lord he does, because, my house would have been blown wide open for who knows how long.
You probably saved some people's lives, because you don't, in those situations, especially if you're caught off guard, you don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
And I'm at the. This a whole nother part of the story here too is now I'm considered a felon. Now at the time, I'm not a felon. I've never had a felony offense, but they're calling me a felon in the state of Virginia, and I haven't figured out exactly why. But I cannot have firearms. But at that time, pre-arrest, I had firearms. I had firearms handy. Had they blown my doors open on a no-knock, no warning search, somebody, and I know I'd have got killed before it was over with, but you're just not going to blow my doors in, and I'm not going to give you a glass of Kool-Aid and some cookies. I got something else to give you.
Yeah, nobody would blame you. You don't know who's blowing your door in. I mean, especially in this day and age, and especially with the way Antifa was acting at that time, they pretty much could burn cities down and nobody would do nothing. So I'm going to let Dean take over, because I've kind of exhausted my questions for you, Doug. I want to thank you so much for being on. And yeah, I want to let Dean kind of get his questions in, and then we'll kind of round this out. I don't think we are going to have a members only tonight, because I have a bunch of stuff to get done, and I think we've kind of answered everybody's questions. But we'll do an extra long members only either next Tuesday, and I might even just do a broadcast on Thursday. So, but yeah, Dean, if you want to take over real quick.
Yeah. I want to thank you for coming on and telling your story, because this has been very eye-opening for a lot of people. And of course, there's going to be a lot of people who are like, "Oh, well, he's just a political activist, and that's why he's saying this." But do you really have anything to gain from, telling a story about stuff being in the tunnel, about the closing the tunnel, or?
If anything, I've lost. I haven't. There's nothing to gain out of this. You do interviews for somebody, and it's your time that you could be working. You don't get paid to do interviews. I just want to tell the truth. I know what happened to me. I know what I saw, and all I'm doing is relaying exactly what I saw and what I perceived to be happening around me. Like I said, I'm a solid Christian, and there's anybody that knows me will tell you, if I'm opening my mouth telling you something, I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, even the media, who usually went out of their way to demonize the crap out of January 6th arrestees, and they're calling them insurrectionists and all that, but they seem to have a lovely interview with your neighbors who said, hey, he's just a stand-up guy. He's the kind of guy who would give you the shirt off of his back. And it seems like he just got caught up in the moment on something, and you didn't go. Now, people, of course, have this preconceived notion when they go and listen to CNN and all that, Donald Trump had instructed you to go to the Capitol and insurrect. Was there any part of his speech that made you think, oh no, I have to violently overthrow the government today?
Not me. Not at all. It's I used to go to rock concerts as a kid. I went to hundreds of them here in Hampton Roads, and I used to enjoy the crowds. I don't enjoy crowds anymore. I'm not real good in crowds. And that was the largest crowd I've ever been in. I just went there to support my president. I knew, it was called the Stop the Steal rally. And that's all I was there for. I wasn't there to cause any trouble. In fact, I got a really good police record. Or almost non-existent police record. So I'm not a troublemaker, never have been. I'm a fun-loving guy. Like I said, I enjoy a good time as good as anybody else. But no, as far as rioting and causing trouble, damaging stuff, hurting people, that's not me at all. I'm not like that at all.
Yeah, you sound like a good dude. I went out to a Trump rally. First political rally I ever went to. It was a Trump rally. It was like a party-like atmosphere. Everyone was having a good time. There was no kind of nonsense going on. It was overflow. I didn't actually get in because I didn't get there early enough. There were people there who waited from the day before, but we got to watch on a screen outside, and everybody hung out, and good vibes all around. So people trying to spin that narrative that it was angry, violent rallies and such like that. I just can't buy it. But so what happened to you in court? Like so you get arrested the second time, and did the prosecutor speak with you? Were they trying to get you to plead to something, or were they hardballing you?
Let's put it this way. My impression of the courtroom was, I had the Honorable Judge Nichols, and he's a Trump appointee, and I could tell that he really didn't want to do anything to us, but Merrick Garland had kind of forced his hand to do the bare minimum. You were going to get what I got. The prosecuting attorney was out for blood, and my lawyer and I discussed. She said, you're in the swamp, and Doug, they hate your guts there. They hate you. Do you understand that? I said, yes, ma'am, I do. She said, and this is a graphic she put it, she said, they'd pour gasoline on you and try to put you out with an ice pick. That's how much they like you. So expect zero balance of anything good from this court. And I knew that going in, well aware, but there's not but so much they could do to me. Even the FBI said I was a model tourist when I was inside the Capitol. So, they really couldn't slam me in prison. I wouldn't have thought, although they did a lot of other people since then. But My trial was on November 9th, 2021. And what I received was 3 years probation, 1 month in-home incarceration, 60 hours community service, and $550 fine.
Well, that's not too terrible. I mean, but then you have a felony on your record as well.
Well,
you're
actually,
saying.
the charges I pled to, they're misdemeanors. They're plain and simple misdemeanors. But when I went to Texas I had to fly to Texas to do the part in that movie. And what happened was I had my driver's license didn't have the star on it, so I couldn't fly without the star. So I re-upped my driver's license, and I checked the motor voter box when I did. Now, when I returned from Texas, it was about 2 weeks later, I get a letter from my local registrar's office saying that I've been stricken from the registrar, that I'm no longer able to vote because I'm a felon. So I went through the state police records challenge, and all they could tell me was, yes, you're a felon. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I've never been charged with a felony. So I think it came out of the swamp. I think it's something that I've got somebody working on my behalf trying to clear it up. But I started this in September. So here we are in February, and it's still not cleared up yet. I think they're either dragging their feet, or they found out that, hey, if they let me go off of this felony charge, I do have a lawsuit against somebody.
Even after the battle, even after the battle's over, it's not over. They put other things through.
No, I think they're just sticking the knife in my back every chance they get.
Yeah,
my phone's still tapped. My internet, everything that I do, they monitor. Hey, it's like I said, my phone's tapped, and they do harass me on the phone.
I mean, I find it interesting because you're talking about you get inside the Capitol and you see people throwing things around trying to trash the place, and that wasn't even. We saw the riots outside at home. You know, if you're watching any of the mainstream media, inside the Capitol, everyone's walking within the velvet rope. So it would seem that they had an interest in not showing the people who were doing that inside the Capitol. Like maybe they could be identified, or maybe it could come to light that they're not actually Trump supporters and such.
Absolutely. They're very selective on what they showed on on that January 6th select committee. I did receive a phone call from Liz Cheney asking me to present myself and tell my side of the story to the committee, and I laughed in her face. She hung up on me.
Walking into a kangaroo court.
I knew that. It's this.
Hard pass.
I mean, the
That's
whole
good.
setup of that thing, we saw Adam Kinzinger, Jim Jordan wanted to be on the committee and they flat out refused. So it was exactly what they said, a select committee. They selected the biggest rhinos they could and called them Republicans. And it's nothing I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, then they just burn their notes, as you do. As you just get rid of all of your notes. No need to go back to this. The deadliest insurrection in the U.S. history, but no need to keep any of the records of it.
Right. Yeah. Let's get rid of the records and just do not show anything but what we want to show that backs up our narrative on film.
Well, you sound like a solid dude, and I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you spending some time with us, and I'm going to pass it over to the group.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
So before we end this thing, do you want to shout anything out? Do you have anything going on that you've been working on, or media wise? Do you want to shout anything out? Maybe your Twitter, anything like that?
Only thing that I'd like to say is if anybody has a spare nickel or dime in their pocket, send it to the guys that are in prison over this the January 6th, the Gulag boys is what I'm gonna call them. Man, they need all the attention. They need all the help. If you write them a letter that's much appreciative, anything that you could do for those that are in prison. Like me, it's a struggle for those families. It's still a struggle for me. But I'm not asking for anything for myself. Just, help some of these guys out if you can. And, if when this movie Capital Punishment 2 is released, please go watch it. I believe in the director and the producer. I believe they've done an excellent job on this movie. Very informative. Support those guys as well.
Well, I dropped the link, patriotfreedomproject.com/donate, where you guys can donate directly to help these guys out. They are, of course, political prisoners. That's how I see them. I don't speak for everybody here on the show. I speak for myself, the Kang of the Red Pill Fight Club. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Mr. Sweet. I do appreciate that.
Hey, I really appreciate the opportunity. I think I have an honest and true story to tell, and I know that upon looking, if they're allowed to get the footage of what's in that tunnel, right now it seems like I have no proof of what I saw in the tunnel, but I know what I saw, and I was well equipped to understand what I was looking at. I was ready for that. So sooner or later, the tunnel footage is going to come out. I will say this: Laura Logan did that clip on Victoria White, and I did watch it. Now there was a camera that was on the entrance to the tunnel where we were loaded onto the paddy wagons at, and I saw it in Laura Logan's segment. It was me and a police officer standing. I was waiting to get added to the paddy wagon, and they were showing Victoria White going into the female's paddy wagon. So I know there is a camera that was on the outside of that tunnel that if they could subpoena the footage of that, they would see who's going in and out.
I mean, the issue they had with Jacob Chansley's trial ultimately became that they were withholding exculpatory evidence. Now, was there any kind of discovery process at all afforded to you guys?
No, not at all.
That is part of due process, And,
I know it is, but it's like my lawyer told me, Doug, you're in the swamp, Jack. You ain't got no rights.
Yeah.
They're going to run the court their way, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing she could do about it.
Yeah, we're seeing it more and more every day.
Yeah, it was a scam court. They had it in their minds what they're going to do to us anyway. We weren't allowed to voice. We faced charges, and that was it. There was no evidence produced. We did have the chance to speak, and what I said was I was proud to be there at January 6th. I have no regrets, and I do it again. And what was said about me and Curzio were the only two that have ever said that they have no regrets about going in, and I'm proud of that because I don't have any regrets. That's what patriots do.
We're proud of you too, but I'm sorry that happened to you.
Hey, you know what? I was there. I did it, and I guess I'm getting slapped down for it. And I take full responsibility. Like I said, I'd do it again in a second.
Absolutely, man. God bless you for coming on. Jeremy, do you want to say a little something before we round this one out?
Well, yeah, check this out. To everybody to this panel right here, specifically tonight, Doug, yourself included, these guys here, Red Pill Fight Club, We Are the Show, Thomas over there, this interview would not have been what it was without you guys. And there's been a lot of gratitude in the chat room. Doug, if you get a chance to check out the chat room, there's a lot of gratitude in there for you. Everyone's very appreciative of you coming on and simply telling your story and telling the truth. And people are grateful to hear this. And we know that you probably have had to pay a price to do this and be who you are, and we want you to know, man, that you're not alone, and you're in good company here, and we're not here to doubt you, man. We were here to listen for sure, and we appreciate everything you had to say. And to the chat room, we've got Live Truth Radio. Thank you for joining us up in the northern part of Ohio. We've got a lot of interaction with our guys in here, and I saw Painter Steve. He says that the FBI is known for doing stuff like this. Aaron Robard said Congress walked by all of that same clothing that you did, Doug. Now think about that. Congress walked by all of their clothing on the way out. They had to have seen it. What a fantastic point.
Ray Charles could have seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's come on, man. And we know what Congress is. They're in it for themselves, and they hate us. And I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat; they all hate us.
Yeah, well, and Kenzie fam and Sarge is in the chat. So when you get a chance later, Doug, if you want to go back and watch this video, it'd be worth it to you to see the chat room and know that all of us are grateful, man. And if it's okay with the rest of the panel here, I'd like to be the first to extend an invitation for you to come back on.
Yep, you're absolutely welcome.
And
hey,
especially
y'all say the word, and I'm on. And like I said, I'm not a real personal guy. I'll give my time to anybody. If I can help, I'll be there anytime. And to the chat room, all the people in the chat room, I'll say God bless y'all for listening. I appreciate a platform that I can tell this story because so many people don't know. And the more information we can get to you, any means possible, if it's the truth, that's what we seek, the truth, and it's all gonna come out, guys. It's we've been in a long haul right here, and we're trying to see the end of the tunnel in sight, and I think it is. I think that the tide has changed, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all, and like I said, to everybody in the chat and everybody on this right now, God bless you all. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, God bless you, man, and be expecting to hear from us, because I think us in the chat room, we'd all like to have you back on, especially after Capital Punishment 2 comes out. We would like to maybe even show a premiere of that here and then have you on if that's all right.
Absolutely. Anything y'all ask me to do, I'm more than happy to do it. And like I said, I appreciate the platform. I appreciate all of y'all's time. I'm a very thankful person at this point. Thank you.
Yep. No
Thank
problem,
you.
man. Anytime. Thanks,
Pleasure was
Jeremy,
all
for
mine.
being here. Thanks, Kang, for being here. Thanks, Dean, for being here. Everybody in the chat, God bless you guys. Good to see you. God bless you guys. God bless America. Long live the Republic. We'll see you next time on the Freeman Report. We're out. Now, how do I end this stream? Oh, there it is.